So I'm going to throw, let's see. They all have good, unique businesses. I'm going to try and throw a first one out to start this off. And I'm going to ask, I'm going to start with Garner Holt on the end because his business intrigues me very much, what he's doing with audio animatronics. And can you explain a little bit about who your client base is and how you built your business doing what you do and becoming the world expert in that?
Well, my company started 36 years ago in my parents' garage. I didn't have any idea where I was really headed at that time. I started doing things just locally, here in San Bernardino area in Orange County. Started with the haunted house business, and that type of thing back in the 70s. And, then just started to create some products in the trade show industry and ultimately evolved. Worked for a long time, moved out of the house, but worked for a long time, just single employee. It was me for a long time and, through the 80s and kind of struggled for a while and eventually caught Disney's attention and some others and started building some small things here and there for, various entertainment establishments. And up into the 80s and 90s, we really around 88, 89, we got our first theme park job, hired some of my first employees, and our focus was always on doing a really high quality job and at a reasonable price. And eventually we got involved with as I say, Disney and Chuck E. Cheese. Once we got involved with them, we started moving forward, ultimately we've worked in over 30 countries, worked in our 30th country this last year in the Ukraine. And we did, with Chuck E. Cheese, we've done over 475 restaurant shows and Disney parks worldwide. We work for all the Disney parks. We work for all the large theme parks worldwide and done over 4,000 animated figures. And then worked on, scads of attractions. So we are a worldwide company now.
So a 30-year growth of starting in a garage and moving up. And staying on that same thing, I'm going to move over to Mac. He has a unique concept they're doing with SurfAir. Where did this idea come from to do a country club style airline?
It's definitely a bit of a long story, but the idea really came from our CEO, who is the original founder. His name's Wade Irely. So I was actually one of the first hires that he took on, but he's the one that had the original idea. And the original idea came from his younger brother, who was actually a pilot for Frontier Airlines. And he was actually not flying at the time. He was working on the ground in Dallas-Fort Worth. And he was asking his brother Wade, he was like, Wade, what's one way that I can get up into the air? Come on, you're a smart guy, help me out. And Wade said, well, I don't know. The only thing I can think of is really just, I don't know, maybe we start an airline. And so sure enough, the two guys put their heads together and they thought about really what was broken with the aviation industry. And that's sort of where me and the rest of the team came on board. I have an aviation background. I used to work at Virgin America Airlines before moving to SurfAir. And what we really came up with is looking at really what was broken in the current space. And the way that airlines operate right now is that they operate on a ticketed model. And what the ticketed model means is that you pay for a ticket to go from point A to point B at a given price point. And all the airlines do this. And they offer pretty much the same product. It's just a seat that goes from point A to point B. And what SurfAir wanted to do is move away from that, because other airlines basically create this race to the bottom. Whoever has the lowest price is the one that's going to gain the customer. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that doesn't actually create a profitable business for airlines. At the end of the day, since airlines have been around, they've actually lost money. Richard Branson, who's the founder of the Virgin Group, always says that if you want to become a millionaire, start out as a billionaire and then create an airline. They lose money in general. So inherently, there was a broken model in place. And so what we wanted to do is fix that. And that's where the all-you-can-fly country club style airline came from. We didn't want to sell tickets anymore. What we wanted to do is we wanted people to be able to consume travel like they consume travel in their car. When you purchase a car, you make an upfront payment for travel in about a 50-mile radius from where you start your day. And you do that every day. And you don't think about it. You jump in your car when you need to go to the grocery store, to go to dinner, to go to work. Now, what SurfAir wants to do is the exact same thing, but with air travel. We want you to pay an upfront payment at the beginning of the month, like you would for your car, but now we want you to travel up to 400 miles in a radius from your original point. So now you can go to San Francisco from Riverside to take that dinner, to take that meeting. You can expand your business and you can expand your sphere of influence. And that's what SurfAir really wants to do, and that's why we call ourselves a revolution in air travel, because we're really redefining the way that people travel in general. And we're redefining the way that people think about their travel experience. You no longer have to go through TSA when you fly with us. You're flying on small private planes. You can fly as much as you want. There's a really slick booking engine that takes 30 seconds every time you want to book your flight. All of the details, the painful details, are taken out of it. And so yeah, that's where the model came from.
It's fascinating. For Ben, his model, I understand what he's doing based on developments that were done for diabetes testing. My question for Ben is not just the innovative technology of what you're doing with testing for alcohol content, but how did you decide that your target market was employers and their HR departments?
Well, I guess I should preface it out that like a lot of high technology, we started with a really cool technology that was exciting and then tried to go build a business around that, which I don't recommend, by the way. It's usually the wrong way to go make money. It's slow and it's painful, but that's often how you start out, especially when you're a geek by training. So what we really came to realize is that we had a new way of measuring alcohol. It's completely non-invasive, optics-based. If you put your finger on the sensor, we shine light, we can measure the alcohol concentration in your body. And this is a really compelling demonstration for investors, right? Imagine, so I'm at a VC firm, or I'm at a convention, and people are trying to invest in different business models, and my closing pitch is at the cocktail party. These guys are walking up and putting their fingers on the system, they're watching the numbers going up. It's a great party game. And so to your point, our biggest challenge actually was figuring out not was there a market, but as a small company, what was the appropriate market to actually launch a profitable business? Because you have this very compelling, very visceral technology. It's magic. You put your finger on the light, it measures something in your body. The immediate response by your investors, by your business partners is, we're going to sell these everywhere, right? And which is not a viable business model for obvious reasons. So what we backed into is we realized that most alcohol and drug testing today is done as a punitive event. And there's good reasons for that, but you can imagine both in industry or in law enforcement, today, most testing is done as a way of catching you doing something wrong, right? You showed up to work drunk you weren't supposed to, or you drove a car and you weren't supposed to. And we realized that the objective really was safety. It was to prevent the accident. It was to prevent the liability. And what our technology allowed us to do was to move the testing up front. So we have put it into industry workplaces, not as a way to test after an accident occurs, which is where most alcohol testing occurs today, but to actually put it at the gate as a time clock. So now if you're going to go into a work environment where if you're intoxicated, you're either going to break a high dollar asset. Some of these oil refineries or oil drilling rigs cost, tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour. So if you shut it down, major economic impact. Or equally as important, in pure business terms, you're going to cause loss of life or injury and liability to the company. In terms of just the pure economic flow, we had a very compelling business model. We could put this up front. You could test everyone coming in. We could then identify people who were not fit for duty, and rather than firing or losing good employees, you could pull them out for the day, educate them, hey, you actually didn't stop drinking soon enough last night before you showed up to work today, and prevent the accidents downstream. Because that's been our big push. It's not only the technology, but it's flipping the testing from a punitive, can we catch the bad people who are doing things they shouldn't, and really put in place, can we put in a safety net to catch those one-off events that most people at some point in their life, incur.
So not just innovative technology, but an innovative solution, proactive solution to a common problem in industry. For Kathy, I'm curious how we go from an online retail store to processing waste. Where does the inspiration come from to do that?
The inspiration comes from not like, I didn't like being tied to a product and working with consumers. I decided I would rather sell 100 $20,000 items to businesses than, you know, 200,000 $10 items to consumers. It allowed me more flexibility. I can work from just about anywhere. So I went into this. When I sold my store, I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing next. So I took close to a year to really research and investigate and try to understand what kind of markets were coming up. This was at the downturn of the economy. I sold my store in 2008. I was very, very fortunate to sell it right before everything went down. Started my business in the summer of 2009, and I just wanted to look for a B2B type of situation, and discovered this opportunity, looked at it. It was fantastic for the downturn because companies are always looking to save money, and the new laws and regulations required reduction of waste, increasing in recycling. Cal Green in California for construction waste management requires a lot more tracking, monitoring, and reporting, and it just looked like a good thing. So I educated myself and started the business, and here we are.